Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Ray Robinson and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view, please go to, and in capital letters, RBRIMO. And then put your arrow on videos. And you will be able to see all of our programming. I also want to welcome our millions of viewers worldwide. The In My Opinion Show is seen on Comcast Cable Television, Channel 17, Flint, Michigan, every Saturday at 6, and Channel 68, Comcast Cable Television, Detroit, 7 days a week. I want to welcome my co-host, Mrs. Jackie Williams.
Thank you, Ron.
And Mr. Henry Hatter.
Thank you, Ron. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
Same-sex marriage. Michigan Attorney General, get off your high horse. Same-sex marriage was ruled constitutional by a federal judge. Stop playing to your political base and the religious right. Where were these zealots of religion when millions of young boys and girls were raped and brutalized by Catholic priests and other religious dominations? Same-sex marriage is official in 17 other states, including the District of Columbia and many other nations around the world. People, you must educate yourself against people like Schuette and the zealots of religion as to their pandering and untruths. Hawaii was the first state to recognize same-sex marriage in 1993. To deny same-sex marriage is a violation of the equal protection under the law, part of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which took effect in 1868. It states, states must apply the law equally and cannot discriminate against people or groups of people. Breaking news. Attorney General Eric Holder has said marriage to same-sex couples is legal in the eyes of the federal government and the U.S. Constitution. Remember, federal law supersedes state law. Detroit pastors silent on EM gathers to suppress gay rights. Jane Rousey and April DeBoer, two women, are challenging the Michigan laws in federal court, fighting for the right to marry and adopt children together. If their case, which began before the U.S. District Court in Detroit, is successful, gay marriage could be legalized in the state. Breaking news. Again, legalization of same-sex marriage in Michigan has been approved by the U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. A coalition of approximately 100 black pastors from Detroit pledged to lead a march against what they said is a threat to their voting rights. No such coalition formed to protest the passage of PA 436, the emergency manager law, which has effectively disenfranchised half of the state's black population and all Detroiters. These pastors, you pastors, need to get a life and mind your own damn business. They need to march on Governor Snyder in regards of Lansing disenfranchising African Americans and their vote. How many of these pastors are gay themselves and are perpetrating a fraud with this march? How many have porn on their computers? How many of these preachers and so-called preachers have ghosts in their closets? One prominent pastor comes into mind, all right? Bishop Long of Georgia. He's been in the news lately, and I'm sure all you pastors out there and other folk know who I'm talking about. He marched too. Come to find out, hey, he had 2 or 3 boyfriends. Jackie, what's your thoughts?
Well, actually, it goes all the way back. So, our country was founded religiously, in God we trust. So we have biblical standings when we started, So that's how we made the traditional sanctity of marriage, and it was between a man and a woman. And we were all for that, and then, like you said, the federal government changed it and said, okay, now they recognize, gay marriage. But Michigan had an opportunity to come out and give their opinion of how we want to do it here in Michigan. We voted not to allow gay marriages. So we have already spoken. So I understand that federal overrides state, but we have spoken as a state, and we have said that we don't want to have gay marriages here. And it's so many sides to this. There's so many different sides. And on the religious side, I stand. And I don't mind anybody knowing I believe in a man and a woman. Now, I don't hold anybody hostage to my ideas. But this is just how I feel about it being right in my mind. So I feel like we have already spoken as a state, and we just need to leave it alone, regardless to what Eric Holder says or anybody else says. Michigan has voted that we don't want to do that, and that should stand.
Well, also, the voters of Michigan also voted against the emergency manager. All right? What happened? Your governor vetoed, or whatever the hell he did. He stopped that. So now, let's balance. Where's the balance here?
We got to stay on one
Okay.
issue here.
We are.
Yeah.
Well, I brought up the pastures, and I brought up the 436. Okay. Now they're out there marching against gay marriages, but where were their little asses when 436 was going on? They took the vote away from 50% of African Americans in the state of Michigan, and all of Detroit. Where were they? Where were they then? But yet they want to get out there and try to act righteous. I'm sure a lot of them are righteous, but I know they ain't going well, and some of them aren't. I'm not alleging. I don't know any of them. But anyway, Henry, what's your thought?
Ron, you got me all over the place. But first, before I go back to the marriage crisis that we face, I want to say that the problem with cities that can't run themselves and school districts is because they don't have the capacity to run. They have the wrong people elected. And many people who don't get their services carried out in a municipality are suffering because of ineptness of their leadership. When that leadership can no longer provide these services, it's up to the governor to make sure that people are being provided the service. It has nothing to do with race. Okay. Now I want to get back to the question of marriage. I don't like that, but I believe, as Jackie has already articulated, that marriage is between a man and a woman. And there's no way that I can divorce it. I don't have a psychological argument for why the reverse should be true. I've never been a gay, so I've never been into that capacity. And any subject matter experts need to tell me. They need to go through it, come back and say, here's what it's like to be a gay person in this kind of situation. Or Henry Hatter, you need to be gay and go through that experience. Otherwise, you don't have any subject matter experts. We need to hear from people who have gone through it, people who are knowledgeable. And then there's the argument of the legal argument, which is it's against the law, at least here in Michigan, because the people voted. And there's also the law dealing with our health. That has to be considered. And when we consider all of the nuances of diseases that we can have and how this can permeate the whole human race, we should be concerned about it, because we have no data to say that these kind of things won't happen. But what we've seen in the 70s and 80s, when this stuff was brought to bear, we saw multiple people who have caught diseases and died. And I don't believe the Bible or the Creator meant for this to happen. I think he or she meant for people, the opposites, to attract, like they do atoms.
But you're blaming, you know, that, I mean, the Creator probably didn't want people to catch cancer either, all right, or tuberculosis, or
That's a
you
trivial
know,
argument.
or well, but so is yours, in my opinion.
No, it
okay,
isn't. This is an argument
Okay.
before human beings to be considered whether we ought to go through this or not go through it.
There's diseases out there that are just coming into being.
But I
that
know,
we know
that this
nothing
is
about.
one that we think is generated by our own behaviors. This is not new. It's been around for a long time. And I don't profess to have the solution to it, but I question it because I'm not a subject matter expert. I don't have a Freudian reason for this being taboo. There's just no way except that how the practice has ravaged through the population and killed off some of it, and could kill off a continent had it not been for doctors and lawyers who engaged in research and stuff like that to bring it under control. And because we can bring it under control doesn't mean that we have found an ultimate solution and that we ought to practice it. But the thing, I don't want to see any American threatened or any person threatened or discouraged or scorned by a belief in this practice. I think they should be protected under law from harm by the federal government or gangs of individuals who don't believe as I do. Those people, their lives are very important to us. So I agree with those people who believe that that's true, but don't necessarily support the practice itself.
But there are people out there, and I've watched a number of programs on TV that discuss, the same topic that we're involved in right now. People can't help the way they were born. Okay, there's some that say they can, and some say they can't. People can't help the way they were born. If you feel more comfortable, if a man feels more comfortable in being, being a woman, so be it, and vice versa.
And that's part of my argument.
Mhm.
I said I have never experienced this before. I can't talk on that because I don't know.
I don't have any experience in that, in that either. But
I know. I don't. Neither do I. But one of the things that bothers me is that, how are our children being affected? Because I know that some school teachers have told me that the kids that come from same-sex homes, that they're very early on determined to tell everybody that they're not like their parents. They had an episode where a little boy was like kissing all the little girls to show that he didn't like boys. So I wonder what it's doing to our children, even though these,
stigma.
you know what I mean? It might be bothering our children because we teach without knowing we're teaching. So even though I tell you have a choice, I'm showing you what my choice is, and sometimes I'm persuaded by what's in front of me versus what you're telling me. So if you have two women at home, I might not feel comfortable to date a man if I haven't been taught that it's okay for me to be free too.
But Jackie, can the two philosophies coexist? A support for gays and a support against gays. Can that exist concurrently in a society? Or should you have to expunge one in preference for the other?
I mean, they're going to exist because everybody is not going to agree. So they're going to always.
No, but
of course,
gotta have
in
some harmony
yeah,
here.
We do need to have some harmony.
Yeah, we need to. Can we exist harmoniously? And this is what I think that state government is trying to do.
Yeah.
To bring us together so that it exists in harmony. Can we do that?
I mean, but have we did enough research? Do we know what the effects are? Do we know? Have we done any research to find out?
I'm sure there are people working on it, but what do you believe in your head right now? What do you believe?
Yeah, I think we need to come to a common place. We need to come to a common place. Either we accept it or we don't. And we need to respect it regardless to what you believe, regardless to,
Can we really do that? I'm sorry to take you back, but Ron, can
in
you
a
really
perfect
do
world you
that?
can.
No, you threw a curve there.
In a perfect
world.
yeah, because
you
for
can do
one,
that. But what
in
about
front
the
of
real
you,
world?
I might tell you that I'm okay. I mean, I might not tell you that I'm not okay with it. But when I go home, I might say something
Yeah.
totally different because we got people that are down low. They don't want you to know
Yeah.
how they really feel. But everybody is not going to be open about it.
Okay, but can we resolve this problem, this question, among human beings? Or do we have to expunge one side in preference of the other? Now, let's be truthful. Let's be open. Let's be honest as we look at this. Can we coexist?
I think we can.
We must.
We have to, because if we don't, we're going to constantly be at each other's throats.
Yeah.
I mean, we're never going to have any peace.
Not only is it morally right, but it's legally right.
But, I think that this suggests one thing. It suggests that we must accept gays.
And transgenders and
Now,
lesbians.
stop and think about how, when you ask that question, what must be done if we're going to coexist? And ultimately, the country has to accept the practice of gays. And then as soon as we die off, you and I, we're the only ones that believe against it. These guys like Ron will take over. And the new people who don't know about it and think it's okay are going to make it happen just the way we predicted it has to happen.
It's called equality, Henry.
Yeah. Stop and think about it. The handwriting is on the wall.
Let's know the psychiatrist Fritz Perls. I'm sure everybody's heard that name before. He's saying, well, I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine.
So we explain.
If we should meet, fine. If not, that's okay too.
I'm sorry. That just, Ron, you invited that one.
Okay.
Well, you walk right into it.
So, let's change gears. A few minutes we have left. What in the hell is going on in the county jail? Genesee County Jail. Guards win $500,000 a discrimination case. What the hell is going on in Genesee County 9/11? Operator wins $262,000 settlement because she wouldn't quit singing. More county stupidity. Her stupid supervisor said, since she was a 9/11 or that person was a 9/11 operator, her singing would hurt her throat. Now, isn't that stupidity? Okay, that's taxpayer dollars. Almost, what was it? Almost over three quarters of a million dollars going to pay for stupidity. All right. Another situation is troubling. Flint police close murder case on Sierra Nelson, a 10-year-old girl they found murdered, raped, and thrown in a ditch a few years ago. They said that they had a suspect, no names, no nothing. Now, if they had a suspect, why didn't they at least arrest this person? More stupidity, in my opinion. I'm not
That's
a
been a
cop.
very low profile case too. Unfortunately, it was very low profile. At first, when it came out, it was big news, but then it went to the sidelines very quickly.
Well, let's go back to this county jail business, all right? Not to diminish, Sierra
But it's a great point.
Nelson, but the stupidity with the Genesee County Jail and the 9/11. They dismissed this lieutenant, I guess, that was, or fired this lieutenant that was allegedly the perpetrator of this discrimination case. Why did Sheriff Piquel let it get that far? That would be my question. Because obviously, allegedly, it was reported, but nothing was ever done.
What they're finding is that a lot of people in the business place, including the county, they have friends in positions, and instead of you doing your job, you're just, if you're friends, you just overlook certain things, but you're not being a good steward in your position. And regardless to if you're friends or not, you still should hold your employees or your supervisors accountable to conducting themselves accordingly. And I mean, that goes for the county jail and the 911 operator. You have to be a good, some people go to work and some people are at work. And, the 911 operator that dismissed something that could have avoided major trauma, we got to be conscious of what type of positions we hold. And I think we just probably need to be a little bit more screening. We probably need to do a little bit more screening when we get these individuals, because a 911 operator's job is very, very important. Yeah, that's very important. So it seems like we need to probably do a little bit more, screening and backgrounding, because, in that one case, she just dismissed something that could have been avoided, and the only repercussion that they have is they're going to train her.
Well, Ron, my take on this is that I think there was a mistake. The lady made a terrible mistake.
Well, we're talking about her supervisor.
Yeah, but
fired or wrote her up.
Yeah.
Because he said since she had an outside gig singing, all right, she couldn't perform her job properly because her singing may have something to do with her voice.
Oh, okay.
That was the situation.
I can't argue that, but I'm going to look at the legal side of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, anytime the law, or a court of law, or its successors, or any of its representative does something where an individual is hurt, harmed, or injured in some kind of way, the court and the law must pay for it when the law does that. And it's no different when an individual, like we are, breaks the law and causes injury either to the state or to an individual. We must pay for it. And here's a case where they awarded these judgments based upon a breach in the law. Something happened in the law. The law should be able to pay just like individuals should be able to pay when it makes gross mistakes. Because that's what keeps us safe and free and the ability to challenge our laws. So that the law is never just a gang rule that provides justice. They must be held accountable. And that's my strongest argument for that.
Well, absolutely, they should be held accountable. But who's gonna hold these supervisors accountable for the stupidity?
But that's within the law. That's the framework. They have to go inside. If they pay for it, and the people get upset enough, why did this happen? And they go through, and we will find out ways to mitigate the problem.
Well, I would hope so, because there's no indication at least.
But they should have paid if the law was wrong.
Well, that those supervisors should also have been held accountable too for
yeah.
And I think that's the biggest point that you're making, is that they're not held accountable for what they do, and there is no opinion, and that's what's wrong with a lot of us now. Mm-hmm. At work, there's no place for your opinion. It has to be either the rules or the law. your opinion, you keep it to yourself, and you have it at a round table at your house. But it's no place for it at work. And as a supervisor, you have to be careful because your personal preference cannot come into play when you're at work.
And that's why the In My Opinion show is so incredibly important to our audience. Because this is a place where you can exercise your opinion and your freedom of speech.
But not at work.
Not at work.
Not
We didn't
at
say at work. But here we're talking about it.
That's
We
right.
said if the court breaks the law or the law is broken because of somebody being injured by their failures to operate properly, then it should pay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another thing, if you have a problem on the job, don't put it on Facebook.
No, don't put it on.
Okay?
Please.
But I want to get back to, and our prayers go out to the Nelson family too, for their loss. But I'm still dumbfounded why, if they had a suspect, okay, why didn't they arrest his ass or her ass, whomever that? I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but they should have, in my opinion, they should have been arrested. All right, and let the powers that be decide their guilt or innocence. Okay. But this has been another wonderful conversation with Mr. Hatter and Ms. Williams. This is Ronald Berry Robinson for the In My Opinion show saying, stay focused.